He was tasked by senior executives to go to the Swiss sanatorium to bring back the boss, as the company was nearing bankruptcy and needed his help to resolve the issue. Jack traveled to Switzerland for the Double Ninth Festival. He hired an expensive driver to reach the Alps sanatorium. On the way up the mountain, a local villager threw a bottle of wine at the car. The driver told him that the villagers and the people on the mountain had always hated each other. The sanatorium was once a castle. Its barren owner sought pure blood, but his wife's children were deformed, leading him to marry his sister. The villagers at the mountain's base couldn't accept it, so they stormed the castle and burned the Baron and his sister alive. 100 years ago, this place was rebuilt into a famous sanatorium. Upon arrival, the driver waited outside, but the front desk informed him that visiting hours had ended, so he needed to find a hotel and return tomorrow. But he found that his phone had no network here. He had no choice but to take a bus back to the town at the foot of the mountain. However, an accident happened on the way down the mountain. When he woke up again, lying on the bed in the sanatorium with a broken leg, he could only stay here temporarily to recuperate. The director requested leave from the company while in a coma. He then asked the nurse for water, claiming it was vitamin-rich and would aid recovery. After drinking, he noticed something odd, a bug on the cup's wall. Jack dismissed it and crushed the bug. He urgently needed to find the boss and leave, so he wandered the sanatorium with a cane and eventually located him in a steam room. Jack explained his visit's purpose, but the boss showed little interest in the company's status. After persistent persuasion, the boss eventually relented and agreed to accompany Jack. The two of them then split up. The boss went back to the ward to pack his luggage while Jack went to find the nurse to call a car. While waiting for the car, Jack heard singing. He followed the sound and discovered it was a young girl. Jack wondered how a young girl ended up in a nursing home for the elderly. The director stated her condition was unique, so she has received treatment here since childhood. Hannah was surprised to learn Jack was going down the mountain with the boss, as she knew no one had ever driven this way. Hannah noticed the director upstairs, and her expression revealed he preferred she not contact outsiders. Jack saw that the boss had not come out yet, so he hurried to the ward to look for him. As a result, he saw several nurses who were cleaning, but they didn't know where the boss had gone. Helplessly, he immediately found the director to ask, but Jack had some doubts. The boss Jack became more and more excited as he was about to flip the table when he suddenly started to bleed from his nose. The director found his health below that of a 70-year-old and suggested he try the new spa program. Jack superficially agreed, and while the dean was away, he retrieved his boss's medical file and concealed it before the dean returned. Jack was then placed in a water tank for treatment. The doctor next to him was responsible for monitoring his vital signs. If he felt any discomfort, Jack only needed to knock on the glass to end the treatment. At this time, an eel suddenly swam in the water. Jack opened his eyes, frightened with a racing heart. He was surrounded by eels and quickly knocked on the glass for help. The doctor was drawn to the nurse who approached and became absorbed in the gentle box, forgetting his duties. He could only swim up and knock on the lid, but the eel suddenly pulled down the oxygen tube. The worst thing is that the lid can't be opened. Just when he was about to suffocate, the staff finally opened his mouth, but it was empty again. Could it be that he was hallucinating? After returning to the ward, he looked up his boss's medical records and checked the medical reports. Though he didn't understand, it was clear from the photos that his boss had lost many teeth during hospitalization. He saw a man moving a corpse through the window. Why do it at night? There were likely secrets hidden there. The next day, Jack saw Hannah on a bicycle. She had never left the castle since childhood and was eager to explore the outside world. Jack bribed her with a doll, and Hannah led him down the mountain to the nearest town below. Hannah tried beer for the first time. Jack then asked a retired doctor in town why the boss lost his teeth. The doctor attributed it to dehydration. Jack was surprised, as the sanatorium had plenty of water. He called the company to report his boss's situation, but was scolded for not returning. The company hadn't received his leave notice. I realized the director had been lying. He then rushed down the mountain and took the two back to the sanatorium. Strange events continued. Jack noticed his lips were increasingly dry despite drinking water. He began losing his teeth. To learn this, Jack sneaked into the hospital's restricted area. He discovered a terrible scene. The guests were drenched like specimens, and the boss was among them. Jack was terrified and ran away. Luckily, a car was taking people up the mountain again. Jack quickly escaped to the car and let him leave. Then he went to the town to call the police. He informed the police about the sanatorium. They calmed Jack and then called for reinforcements. While waiting, Jack discovered a sanatorium potion on the shelf. He sensed something was off and tried to leave, but the police and the director entered with him. The director stated Jack's condition worsened while his boss was fine. Jack was confused. Was his condition truly worse? He received treatment suggestions from the dean, who also wrote a resignation letter. While writing, he regained his senses. He cut the plaster with broken glass. His leg was fine all along. It was an illusion created by the dean. To uncover the truth, Jack violently opened the room with the bodies. Inside, there were fire traces and an underground river. The Baroness had a deformed baby, and this lab was where the Baron researched genetic drugs to cure her. A photo on the wall resembled Hannah. It was the Baron's sister. Jack quickly hid. Behind the wall, he discovered the secret that they used mummies to feed eels. He immediately went to the restaurant to make the dean's crime public. Unexpectedly, these patients had been brainwashed. Everyone rushed to attack Jack. Upon waking, he found himself tied to the instrument. The dean revealed that the cave's eels could live for 300 years, but the water was highly toxic. The dean created an extraction method by pouring eels into a human body to extract the juice. Ultimately, he obtained the longevity substance from the barbarian fish, and the squeezed corpse was discarded into the pool to nourish the fish, creating an ecological cycle. Later, Jack was brainwashed by the dean, dulling his eyes. Hannah believed Jack would leave on his own, but he couldn't escape the dean's grasp. Hannah returned the toys. At night, the dean dressed her in a wedding gown. It turned out the dean was the Baron then. Jack survived the fire. Hannah was the Baron's daughter and sister. To preserve his bloodline, the Baron planned to repeat his treasonous acts. Jack was awakened by the doll and reached the crime scene promptly. He consistently sabotaged the Baron's efforts, infuriating him and revealing his true nature. Jack ignited the prepped gasoline, but the dean, learning from past experiences, quickly extinguished the fire. Then he pushed Jack to the side of the pool and prepared to push him in to feed the eels. The villain died from talking too much. Hannah arrived just in time and pushed him into the eel pond with a shovel. The fire spread rapidly, engulfing the sanatorium. They escaped the basement and fled down the mountain. Jack's strange smile at the film's end is unsettling. This is from Life-Saving Antidote.